Sababa, awesome. Welcome, everybody. As people begin to tune in, I wanted to formally introduce myself. My name is Adar Rubin. I serve as Director of Mobilization for End Jew Hatred. This is a very, very important time in our lives. The post-October 7 world, which it's hard to even describe it as the post-October 7 world because a reminder, there is one deceased hostage still present in Gaza. We always got to keep sounding off on that. But we're also here to talk about local issues as well. We've seen the escalation of Jew hatred and oftentimes criticisms of Israel translate into anti-Semitic conduct. We've seen this in our schools. We've seen this in the halls of Congress and the Senate. We've seen it everywhere, from public spaces to private institutions, medical practitioners, in so many different realms. In the world of sports, you couldn't even believe it. The DMV holds a really, really special place in my heart. I myself lived in Northern Virginia for 3 years, from 2018 to 2021. I lived in Falls Church and Pentagon City, respectively. Met a lot of people working in the political landscape. I worked on the Hill, and I had the time of my life, to say the least. It was the moment where I got to fully immerse myself into the world of politics while also enriching other communities about the Jewish experience and the Jewish connection and, the political landscape. A reminder to everybody, End Jew Hatred is a nonpartisan organization. We work with both sides of the aisle. We believe that collaboration is the key to save the nation from extremism and radicalization, whether it comes from the woke right or the far left socialists, communists, free Palestine people, you name it. In Michigan in particular, we have a saying, Detroit versus everybody. The mantra we have to apply is everybody versus Jew hatred. So we basically have to take it on no matter where we see it. And there's a lot of opportunity for the DC, Maryland, and Virginia areas. Maryland in particular has a very vibrant Jewish community, as a matter of fact. People living in Montgomery County, from Springfield to Silver Springs as well. A lot of different spots. And like I said, the DMV holds a very, very, very special place in my heart because it shaped my character. It helped me navigate my own career and become the best that I could possibly be when it comes to being other people's voices and speaking out when Jew hatred runs amok. And basically, the fight is not over. So that's why we're here tonight, basically to get an understanding of what's been going on in various different spaces. You get to hear from a lot of great people that are doing what I like to describe as the Lord's work, but really it's a collective effort. We're very, very, very grateful here to be joined by Paula Bienenfeld, Ken Reid, and Steve Silverman. Now, I wanted to kick things off with Steve. Steve, you've been a legend in Montgomery County. You have.
I always like to say, better to be a has-been than a never was. So I'll just take that.
No, you've been fantastic. So for those of you who don't know Steven Silverman is the former director of the Montgomery County Department of Economic Development. He started his own lobbying firm, SS Gov Relations LLC, and then he also served on the board of directors for several local organizations such as the Washington Area Housing Trust Fund, the JCC of Greater Washington. I love that spot, by the way. American ORT, the Jewish Coalition Against Domestic Abuse Advisory Board, and Nonprofit Village. He's a big, big, big leader in Montgomery County, and he's got a lot to keep us in the loop on tonight. So, Steve, tell us about yourself. Take things away.
Well, thanks, Adar. Well, I'll just say, as a recovering politician, a recovering lawyer, it takes 45 minutes for me to clear my throat, but I'll try to be really brief here. And I've got to cut off probably about 7:40. But I had the privilege of serving on the Montgomery County Council for 8 years. I chaired the council's what was then called the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee. So spent a lot of time on affordable housing, spent a lot of time with supporting housing in the Jewish community through the group homes that are run. And I also had the privilege of serving on the HHS committee. So spent a lot of time with Jessa and um, Jacada and a lot of other organizations. The county's got a long tradition of supporting um, the diverse groups in the county. Uh, I I just want to share my concerns. The 2026 primary is June 23rd. Early voting is a little bit before that, and this is the next 10 years of Montgomery County. And I say that for the following reason. Um, the current county executive, Mark Elrich, is term limited. He's running for the county council at large, his old seat. Um, but there are three candidates for county executive, Andrew Friedson, Evan Glass, Will Jawando. There are a couple of others, but as a practical matter, those are the three major players. And although the filing deadline's the end of February, so you never know, um, the county executive is an 8-year term as a result of term limits. So whoever gets elected, presumably, is going to be in there for 8 years. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's the history of county executives and their ability to get reelected. County council is a different story, but it's still what I would call the next decade. You have 6 council members who are currently there, all of whom are serving in their first term. And it's a 12-year term for the council. So on the assumption that incumbents always win, doesn't mean they will, but that's been the assumption with rare exceptions. They're going to be in for another 8 years. And then you have 5 open seats, 3 at large, one in District 1, which is the Bethesda Potomac District, and District 3, which is Rockville and Gaithersburg. And those folks who get elected to those 5 seats could serve up to 12 years. So that's why all us folks running for office or running for reelection always say, well, this is the most important election in the history of the county or the city or whatever it is. Well, actually, in this case, it is, because this is, for all intents and purposes, the next decade of the county, and how it will grow and evolve. It's of significance as far as I'm concerned, particularly in terms of the Jewish community. I think folks are very aware of what's happened with at MCPS with the school system. And by the way, there is a school board election as well. But the real impact, to be blunt about it, has to come in my opinion, from the county council and from the county executive. That's where the leadership is. We have to have school board members who are doing the right thing, but as a practical matter, we have got to have a county executive and county council leading on those broad type of issues, even if they happen to be in the school system. And I think you saw probably this week that there were anti-Muslim postings on Walt Whitman High School, and you had the county executive and council members, taking positions. So I don't want to minimize the significance from a perception and leadership standpoint. I will also tell you that there's dollars and cents at stake. The MIDC, which I had the privilege of working with when I ran economic development, gets a very small amount of money from the county.
Name that acronym, Steve, so people
Oh,
know.
sorry, Maryland. If I get this right, Maryland Israel Development Corporation, I think it is, but it's basically one of the sort of sub-economic development entities that the county has funded, along, frankly, with the Hispanic Chamber, the African American Chamber, the Black Collective. I mean, a variety of organizations whose goal is economic development. And that particular issue has been completely distorted by many, many people. But the reality is that the council has the ability and the county executive to eliminate funding entirely for MIDC. It's not, there's no law that mandates funding for it. It's just another grant program.
So
Speaking of grants, go ahead, Adar. Did you want to
yeah,
comment on
so
something?
yeah, so two quick things. One, actually, another fun fact about me in college, I actually used to intern because I went to Michigan State, and based in East Lansing. I
Yep.
actually used to intern for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation in their digital media office. So
Oh,
I see the significance of it completely. And the second thing I wanted to give you props on that and raise
oh, sure.
about that. Number two, you touched on school board advocacy. That was something I was going to touch base on later tonight, and I think it's fantastic that you brought it up. The End Jew Hatred movement wants to recruit and train people to run for school board. Obviously, we want people running for elected office. We see a lot of valuable meaning when it comes to school board prep. So, what would you say your message is to members of the Jewish community in the DMV? Urging people the urging people to run, given its necessity. Seeing what we've seen in the public school system over the last 2.5, 3 years. What can we do as a community to encourage others to run as moral messengers for our community?
Well, nothing's technically too late because the filing deadline is the end of February. But as a practical matter, um, I know one of the seats held by Brenda Wolf has just opened up. She is not going to run for reelection. And I think Grace Rivera Oven, who's the current president, is running for reelection in her district as well. And I apologize, I just can't remember if there's another vacancy, but I think it becomes a matter of, and it's a two-step process. There is a primary if
There's
more
two
than
more,
one.
Steve. Two more in for Board of
Oh, okay.
Education. Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
there's
Carla
the at
Silvestri's
large.
seat and Julie Yang, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Of course. Yeah. And I just, to be honest, I haven't followed whether anybody's filed yet or not. But the upshot is that to me, the most straightforward way is for there to be some type of interview process or questionnaire process to get, which is what organizations do to get a sense about what where people are on the critical issues. I just want to finish on two other, and then we can just sort of open it up more. Um, the grant process when I was there um, was the county executive proposed grants to different organizations, and then the council approved them almost 100% and added to it. Well, over the years, and including the last 2 years, that changed. So now the grant process for all social service organizations and frankly anybody else are run through the Office of Grants Management. That best way to describe what's going on in the Office of Grants Management, and Raphael Murphy's doing a great job, but it's kind of a black box, to use the term. You apply, but there's no real feedback and no determination, even who's making the decisions in the executive branch. I don't happen to support that. This council decided to go along with it to depoliticize the system. But I do think that that's had an adverse effect on organizations that have merit and that should be recognized. These are all merit-based grants. It's just there's only so much money around. And so I think the next county executive and next council can have a tremendous impact on how the grants are decided through the community grants process, and not to overstate it, but not to understate it. The county gives out 10 to 14 million dollars a year through this grant process, and they have tens of millions in non-competitive grants that are baked into the budget. So as a practical matter, starting with the county executive, but also the council, because they have authority. The grants process and substantively grants will be in the hands of the next exec and council. And I can tell you that, many of us who were sitting on the council, like George Leventhal, myself, my good friend Tom Perez, who many people know. I mean, we all, thought that there needed to be some focus on the community in terms of the selection of the grants. And the last thing I would say is security, which has historically been an issue. My goodness, I can go back literally 20 years when I was on the council, when issues about funding ballards in front of the JCC were in play. So security issues, grant issues, the specifics of MIDC uh, are all things the next exec and council are gonna take on. And it's important to have advocates in those positions who recognize the importance of them. So I'll just generally close, and we can just sort of open it up. There are three people plus a couple of others running for county executive. As most people probably know, Andrew Friedson and Evan Glass are both Jewish. And Will Jawando is running. Glass and Jawando are at large. Friedson represents the Bethesda Potomac area. And then there's a cavalcade of people running for these other district seats. And I think that what I sort of advocate for you, and I would advocate, frankly, for any organization, is it's not an issue of endorsing. It's an issue of, are people going to answer questions specifically? Or are they going to dodge? And the only way to do that is either in-person interviews or through a questionnaire that gets sent out to folks. And then, frankly, you can publish results, and particularly if people don't even bother to answer. And that's usually the way the process works with the Teachers Union. Sierra Club just announced endorsements today, and there'll be others. But that's one thing institutionally you can do. And the other thing, of course, is there's public financing for many of the candidates. They get a match. If you live in Montgomery County and you write a check or credit card, whatever it is, and you live in the county, then that's going to be eligible for a match for those that are doing public financing. But I can also tell you that bigger than that really is community-based efforts, efforts literally in your neighborhood, where if you can support a candidate, then maybe you and a couple people in the neighborhood go door to door, say, we're your neighbors, we're supporting these candidates. Because there's 140,000 people that will vote in the Democratic primary, give or take, in the county. On a good day, maybe 5 to 10,000, I certainly include Paula in that, maybe 5 to 10,000 know enough about any of these candidates to be able to draw distinctions between them. And so the neighborhood support at the grassroots level cannot be understated in terms of impact. I've had that personal experience. Most everybody else running for office has, where they've had a couple people, in XYZ community who have handed out some flyers and gone door to door or put up a yard sign. And I think that's the other piece at the grassroots level. It's really not about, raising money for these candidates. In my opinion, it's more about grassroots efforts. So I'll stop and we can open it up, talk, questions, comments.
I'll just add to what your last point was, that Mark Elrich won in the last election for county executive by 33 votes. Yep. 33, and that's how he won. So it matters.
Yeah, he won by 77 his first time.
Right.
I have to say, I lost to Ike Leggett 20 years ago, and I joke with people when they talk about how close Blair came to Elrich, and I say, yeah, I lost to Ike by 26, and people say, you lost by 26 votes? How did you sleep? And I said, nah, I lost by 26%. I slept like a baby. There wasn't anything I could have done.
No, that's fantastic, Steve. You know, your insight's super valuable when it comes to local elections. You know, when it comes to elections, they really do matter. We don't, and we as a movement, obviously, you know, as one that's a 501c3 can endorse politicians, but we always encourage people to vote smart. You know, we don't tell people to go a specific left or right direction, just whoever's best on the issue of Jewish civil rights. And, you know, going back to what you said about school board advocacy, um, you know, it's important that we have people collectively running in various different counties. You know, we have our mechanism to train people. And there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come with that, as a matter of fact. And yeah, the filing deadline is at the end of February. That also applies to school board, right?
Yeah, but I just want a quick interjection because I know that you guys were very, I want to say you all collectively or individually, very active in getting the word out about Josie Caballero. Um, that was a questionnaire. That's really the point. She filled out a DSA questionnaire and answered those questions. And so that is exactly how, you know, the word can be spread about what her positions are. And that's why, to the extent that you know, you decide that you can do or want to do some type of questionnaire to the candidates after the filing deadline, you know, that could be very useful the same way this was in terms of getting information out.
If I can ask a question, and I already want some of the other guests to ask first. Anybody online want to ask first? No?
Hi,
Okay.
this is Elizabeth Brody. Hi, Adar and everyone
Hi, Liz.
else. So I don't know the legal implications of being a 501c3. So excuse my question to this degree. So what can we do? Because, you know, I have lots of groups of people who, as was stated earlier, very few people study this. Very few people take the time. They look to End Jew Hatred and other organizations for direction. So I get the point about questionnaire. I think like what the people in my groups are asking is just tell us what to do and we'll do it, sort of thing.
Right.
So they don't care. Like, you know what I mean? So I guess what I would ask is, yes, we can all discuss this. I appreciate the person who was just speaking very much. I bet my mother knows you. She used to be very, very involved in politics. Heiser was her last name, but that's an aside. But, you know, what is End Jew Hatred going to do to provide that information in a way that is consistent with being a 501c3, to your point about questionnaires, so that then we can at least get that out to as many people as possible, and then they can make a quote unquote educated decision.
Won't the JCRC have a survey for the primary or no?
Yeah, there's nothing, if 501c3s can't endorse, 501c3s, however, can do questionnaires. There's nothing,
Right. That's
you know,
why I was
absolutely.
asking.
And then the issue becomes, okay, so the questionnaire is, you know, people fill out the questionnaire, that information is shared to anybody, frankly, that you want to share it with, and then that can then be distributed elsewhere.
Right. No,
Yep.
no, I hear that, and I think that's a great idea. I'm just, I guess maybe my question, I don't know if it's to Adar, but is there a plan for what End Jew Hatred is going to do, or is that, I'm not exactly sure, is that the point of the call to discuss what the best method is?
So when it comes to ongoing, you know, races, we try to avoid electioneering. When it comes to sitting elected officials, it's a little different. Like from my own experience, I've put on like policy panels, like bipartisan town halls where electeds from opposing parties can get together to talk about solutions to remedy the curb or remedy the spread of Jew hatred, you know, solution-based ideas, things that they could collectively work on. You know, when it came to Mom Donnie, for example, I mean, like we got this question on a near daily basis, you know, what is it that we can do? The bitter reality is not much. We can obviously sound off on a bad politician and a bad candidate when they engage in really, really, really bad behavior, but we can't endorse specifically say like, oh, this guy's the saint.
No, I understand that, but
like,
I'm saying, is there anything that End Jew Hatred is going to do that is consistent with being a 501c3, but can provide that information to the point Steve was making earlier, so that then all the people in our groups can then make that kind of easy, educated choice?
Right. I mean, again, it's one of those things where like I would have to talk to the Lawfare Project side because we want to avoid engaging in anything that could violate the 501c3. Questionnaires, I think that's fine personally. It's funny, we're citing a lot of places that I used to work. I actually used to be a JCRC alum myself in Metro Detroit, and I know they did like candidate forums where they invited like candidates from like one specific party, to come together, and they ask questions centered on, Jewish civil rights. But, JCRC, for example, is more of a civic organization. They tend to be involved a little bit when it comes to elections without specifically making endorsements. Basically, it's important that we basically come from a neutral approach, not saying like treat everybody neutrally, but saying like, we keep an eye out on these things. We keep an eye out, when it comes to EJH in particular in Mondani, like we knew that there was going to be people on our aisle that are either going to go Cuomo, they were going to go Sliwa, they were going to go Eric Adams. And, we don't prescribe how to vote. We don't prescribe who to vote for. It really depends on the matter, the type of race. I mean, like, for example, like, let's say, James Fishback out in Florida, if anyone's familiar with that guy is a walking Groyper candidate. Let's say he engages in anti-Semitic conduct, like protesting outside of a synagogue and like harassing Jewish worshipers that are coming in and out, or even engaging in physical conduct. Let's say he does something similar to what just happened in was it Minneapolis or Minnesota, where a church got stormed and Don Lemon came inside and instigated it. Now he's being charged via, I'm pretty sure, the KKK Act, as a matter of fact. I don't know if y'all even knew about this. It was pretty crazy. It just depends on the circumstance itself and the conduct itself. We can call it out, but we can't say vote for this alternative. Like Richie Torres, for example, like I know he called out one of his, I don't know if it's a primary opponent or like someone running on the same party ticket. I know he's got like I think Michael Blake was running against him at one point, and he's anti-Israel, whatever. I think, if someone just does something that's so unbelievably egregious, like that's when we can call it out specifically. I mean, there are different circumstances to it. Again, we can't do like a candidate forum, candidate like town hall. It's different when it's sitting elected officials. We try to be careful with that. But I can definitely talk to the team and gather more insight of future things that we could do. Otherwise we would have to start a 501c4, as a matter of fact. The C4s tend to act as political action committees. And I know if we were to do a 501c4, it would mostly be centered on, local races and things like that. But again, I can't speak for the organization. They haven't made a final decision. So I'd rather speak with the team directly and see what more we can do as far as elections go, while being cautious that we're not violating any tax related laws or anything like that.
I think So I was the president of the Montgomery County Civic Federation, and we are 501c3, and we did have candidate forums. We had candidate forums for Board of Ed, for county executive, for county council members. So as a 501c3, you can do that. You don't have to endorse anyone, but a 501c3 is supposed to be educational, right? You can conduct educational activities, and having, candidate forums should be under that umbrella. And we did it like every election, we would have candidate forums.
And they're doing it this time too, Paula. In Montgomery County, I'm a candidate for council at large from Montgomery County, and we're having Action in Montgomery is doing a forum. The Fair Access for Western County is doing a forum. A lot of groups that are nonpartisan are doing forums. Some that are specifically endorsing or doing forums as well, but some that are not endorsing or anything like that. They are putting together forums as well as numerous
if I can interrupt, maybe we should get Paula and Steve to suggest to us the candidates for all the offices that are questionable on the whole Israel issue, and who are maybe more pro-Israel, pro-Jewish. Maybe that we can get that from you too. Maybe a list,
That
and
would
I can
be
send
great.
it out to our Maryland list. And this would not be from EJH; it would just be recommendation of two very, very in the know people, Paula Bienenfeld and Steve Silverman. And if people want to know who to work for, or whatever, you can talk to them offline. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. What Steve is suggesting is to work for the candidates that you want.
That's great.
Sure.
Happy to do that.
Yeah. I just will make one comment, and hi, Steve. Nice to chat with you again.
Good to see you, Steve.
Yeah, there are there are going to be a million candidate forums. I guess, what I'm mostly, and it's just challenging to run them and to get people to attend, etc. I'll just go back, not to belabor the point, but I think if you guys just did a straightforward questionnaire covering the issues that you want to cover, that'll get the job done as far as getting information is concerned. Because to be blunt about it, if you had a candidate forum, trust me, candidates answer the way they want to answer. But they can't do that when there's a written questionnaire. And we're not talking about 20 questions here. We're talking about some basic things. And it also may be something, JCRC is obviously extremely active. Ron Halber, runs that, and would be a question of what they're doing. Are they pulling together? Are they doing any kind of a questionnaire on these issues? That would be another opportunity to see whether there's information that could be shared.
Ken, do you, as the point person for EJH DMV, do you get in touch with and talk to the JCRC people for this area? Because I think that's a really good point that Steve just brought up.
Yeah, so I mean, we have connections to various JCRCs, a few various organizations. So I'm happy to have a conversation with them about it, see, what the word is on the ground and, what we can do. I mean, for the most part, like when it comes to sitting members, I mean, there's things that we've partnered with them on, like out in the Bay Area, we've circulated a letter that was written by numerous like sitting and former elected officials on the local level, calling on Mayor Eduardo Rodriguez to resign in disgrace because, he called the Bondi Beach massacre a false flag on his personal LinkedIn. On top of that, he is a serial Hamas defender, even came to my neck of the woods in Detroit to cry about how, being supportive of Hamas is like being a victim of a bully, which is insane. So, there's some nuances. It mostly applies to the sitting, but when it comes to elections and whatnot, happy to talk with JCRC. It's always nice to knock on my old stomping grounds door.
They just don't follow up, Adar.
Yeah.
They're not very aggressive. I think we need to move on.
Yeah. So let's actually pivot over to Paula. Paula, here, I'm going to make you a host real quick.
Okay. Hi. But do you mind showing the slides? Maybe you still need to be. Okay,
Thanks,
great.
Steve.
Hi.
Here, one second. Let me.
Okay.
I'm
using my iPad, so.
So before I pull it up, actually, I just want to quickly read your background for those who don't know the legendary Paula Bienenfeld. I'm sorry. So Paula received her PhD in anthropology, specializing in archaeology, and has had a successful career as an archaeologist working with federal, state, and local governments and private sector clients. She's been an activist for decades, beginning as a PTA member at her local elementary school and then as a delegate to the MCC PTA, the Montgomery County Council of Parent-Teachers Associations. She's the president of her neighborhood civic association and is a past president of the Montgomery County Civic Federation. She was awarded with the Civic Federation Star Cup for outstanding public service on behalf of Montgomery County. She's a member of the Parents Coalition of Montgomery County and is on the senior leadership team of the Montgomery County Jewish Parents Coalition. To say you're a legend is an understatement, Paula.
Thank you. I'm blushing. Thanks a lot.
Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to pull up your slide. You might have to assign me as a host again. Just a heads up.
I am not quite sure how to do that. So.
Oh, that's easy. So hover to where it has my screen. Click the 3 dots, and there should be an option to make me a host.
Let's see. Follow host's video order? No. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Nope. Ugh. No, I'm losing you.
It's all good. Here.
Sorry about that.
So you see how we're pinned right now? Like all 4 of us are pinned. So go to my screen, hover your mouse to my screen, go to the top right where it says mute and the 3 dotted buttons. Do you see that?
No, I don't see where we're all pinned.
No, like, do you see the 4 screens below?
I'm seeing my screen and you. So I think I have speaker view. Should I do gallery view? No.
No. Here, just go to participants. Do you see participants?
Yeah.
So click the, actually here.
I apologize.
No, you're good. Here. Just, that's the only way to do it. Like, you got to go to my screen, hover to my screen, see if you see a blue square with 3 white dots.
I do not.
You don't see me you don't see my face?
Yes, I see your face. I see 2 little white dots at the bottom of the screen.
So click on it. Do you see a menu popping up?
Yeah, I clicked on share. I see screen.
Actually, here.
No. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, you'll probably have to share it from your end then.
Yeah,
okay.
You're gonna have to just run the slides for her, Adar.
Yeah, can you run the slides?
No, because I'm not the host. I can't share the screen.
And I can't give you back being the host.
Yeah, you can.
But, okay. Let's see.
Just hover to where you see my name.
And Paula, it's Ann Rabinovitz. If you go on where Adar's picture is and hover in the upper right-hand corner of his picture, there's a little blue box with 3 dots.
Sure. Here, in this case, it would be me pointing this way. Do you see where I'm pointing? Are you hovering?
Yeah.
Where I do. And you see mute in the 3 buttons?
I see. Yeah. Let's see.
Click the 3 buttons, and you'll see a menu pop up with several options. There should be one to say assign host or make host.
See, I don't think I have that. I've got share at the bottom.
No, not that menu.
It's in the upper right corner of his picture box.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. So, and now I seem to be weird, but. So why don't you move on to Ken, and then I'll try to figure it out. How's that?
Sure. You'll have to make Ken a host. Ken, you're on mute.
Why don't you just operate the slides yourself, Adar? No,
I can't. I'm not a host.
Okay. Why don't I?
Make me a host, and we'll see what happens. Then can I hit share?
It's not going to work for you because you're not a host. I accidentally made. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
We need the Israelis to help us with their high-tech
I guess, yeah.
Like,
Is that because Michelle is the host? It's under her name. Is that why this is a problem?
well, yeah, I'm on Michelle's account, so maybe it might say Michelle Adu, but I changed my name to Adar Rubin. I use her pro account.
Okay. So therefore, I have to be a host in order to show my slides. You can't show them even though you have them.
Yes.
Oh my, record to computer.
So,
Okay.
okay. Paula, do you see 4 screens, 4 video screens? Me, you, Ken, and Steve. But for Steve, it just has his camera off.
Yeah.
Now hover your mouse towards where I am.
Okay.
Do you see anything that says mute and 3, like, and a blue square right next to it with 3 white dots?
I do not see. No, I don't. I wonder if I should just hop off.
And then jump off and then jump back on. It'll probably reassign it back to me.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll get back on.
No worries.
I just Adar, I see 3 dots, but I don't see the word mute at all.
Oh, here we go. Assign and leave. Okay, so now I'm getting out and it says assign and leave. So you're going to be the host again, and then I'll jump back on.
Yep, and that should work. And yep, I'm the host now. Perfect. Awesome. Here, let's wait for her to jump back on. The share feature works on my end.
You want to use my slides?
BEA beautiful. I should have honestly suggested that. I apologize for the minor technical delay, folks.
So you have the most recent version of my slides too, Adar, right?
Yeah, I got yours too. So
the most recent one. There was not the first version, the second one. Good. Thank you.
So here.
Okay, I'm back on.
Awesome. Here we go.
Sorry, folks.
Let me quickly change. Share. There we go. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, those are my slides.
Perfect.
Okay,
Paula,
great.
Take it away.
Okay, do you want to go back to the beginning of the PowerPoint?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm here with the Montgomery County Jewish Parents Coalition, and I noticed Ann Rabinovitz also on the call. She's another senior leader member. Okay, next slide, please.
Oops. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, and here's our leadership team. Myself and Courtney Talmud, who could not be here this evening. Okay, next slide. So we were started in 2022. So this is beginning our 5th year of activism. And what we're focused on is fighting anti-Semitism, particularly in MCPS. We strongly support Israel, and we work toward that goal as well. We really have as our mission raising our voices in the public square. We like transparency. We don't want to do things behind the scenes quietly. We feel it's really critical for Jewish voices to be out there. So we work with MCPS and on MCPS, and as well, we create events that celebrate our joy of being Jewish. Okay, next slide, please. And so here are a few of our ongoing initiatives. We work with the Legislative Jewish Caucus and other supportive members in the legislature, which, as you know, has just started. We don't have an agenda this coming year, but a few years ago, we did propose and get passed legislation that requires teachers and staff to take mandatory training on anti-Semitism. And we were told at the beginning, which turned out to be true, that by the time it ended and passed, it would look nothing like what our very strong language was. But we take it as a big success that the first year we tried, we did get this legislation passed. We monitor MCPS. We've met with the superintendent of the schools. We've written letters to the school system. We have participated in the anti-hate, anti-racism working group and participated on MCPS textbook committees. We've provided curriculum recommendations as well. And I have to say, in many cases, we hit a block, we hit a brick wall, and we know that, but we just keep working on these things. So our latest project is the high school yearbook status project. We're just beginning it. Last year, we saw some of the yearbooks from different high schools had anti-Semitic tropes in them. And so this year we decided we are going to reach out to every one of the 25 MCPS high schools, contact the principals, the assistant principals, and work with the faculty advisors to make sure this does not happen again. So that's what we're focused on now. Next slide, please, Adar. Okay, so the other thing that we really focus on in terms of being in the public square is May is Jewish American Heritage Month. And we organized in-person event, Jewish Voices Through Poetry, with this wonderful Lisa Martin, the executive director of the Silver Spring Town Center. And that was an in-person event, standing room only, and it was just wonderful. We also do a Zoom with Silver Spring Town Center on culinary traditions, Jewish culinary traditions. Again, very well attended. We had, it's just, get up there and talk about family traditions. We had Jews from Morocco, all living around Silver Spring or Montgomery County, Morocco, and Ashkenazi, Sephardic. It was terrific, and we'll do it again this May. If you're interested in either of these, if you're a poet or you're interested in the culinary traditions, let me know. Two other projects we're thinking about is a Jewish humor film festival along the likes of the Three Stooges, something like that. And the other thing I thought of, which would be fun, would be a Jewish music porch fest. But we need a lot more volunteers and people. If you have connections in the local music scene, that would be great. And I talked about our yearbook project. The last thing is just echoing what Steve also said, publicize the fight to maintain the Maryland Israel Development Center. We need to mobilize our community. We have to be very vocal, very persistent, because the county council is hearing a lot from anti-Israel people who want the money stopped and want this MIDC ended. The county gives, I think, about $43,000 a year to support this, and it's a statewide organization. We have to be out there. We have to stand out and talk to these guys and be very vocal. Next slide, please. Oh, can you switch it up? Thanks. So I'll kind of go through this quickly, but this is partly why we started, or mostly the Jewish Parents Coalition. Kids that we've talked to, there's been verbal harassment. Children have actually been physically attacked at MCPS. We've had very little response, or had been, from the school system. And so we really focus on what teachers are teaching, what's happening with our Jewish kids. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is echoing what Steve said. Please, we need people to get involved. We need you to speak up, be persistent, call the county council office over and over again, send them emails, and we need people to run. In particular, the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee, which is extremely powerful, meets every month, and they currently have 2 openings. One is applications are due this Friday for a female non-binary, but it's at large, so anyone can apply. They meet once a month. And these are the people that choose and select your legislators in the State House. If you look at, if you're in District 16, Bethesda, Potomac, you've got 4 representatives, 3 legislators and 1 senator. Of those 4, 3 were selected and appointed by the Democratic Central Committee. We do not have elections in Montgomery County, so it's critical. We need more Jews on this Democratic Central Committee. And the candidacy deadline is February 24th to run for an office, County Council, Board of Education. Board of Education, we have at-large seats open. Districts 1, 3, and 5 are open too. There are no incumbents. We also have a student member that's elected by middle and high schoolers every year. And personally, I don't see Jews, trying to get in there as a student member. So tell your kids, run for the student membership. That's a voice on the Board of Education, and it has the same voting authority as every other member of the Board of Education. So we need more Jews, period. Next slide, please. So this is what the other thing we have as an outlet in this county are many county committees. And we need Jewish voices everywhere. We need you to apply to be on these committees. The time frame is not that much. I was on the Historic Preservation Committee. We met once a month. You can do this. It's not that hard. I did it when I had kids, when I had an hour commute each way back and forth to Fairfax County. We're looking for proposals to effectively fight anti-Semitism and proposals for the state legislature. And so this is what we're doing. We really emphasize with also, as End Jewish Hatred does, get out there and speak up. Don't let someone else speak for you. Don't let a legacy organization say, don't worry, we're handling it behind the scenes. It's up to every one of us to get involved and speak up. And this is a really committed group of people on this call. So consider volunteering, running for office. I think that's my last slide. That's my pitch.
Okay, my turn.
Awesome.
I'll load me up, and then we'll take questions later.
Yes, sir. Here, give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Let me get your slide up.
Thank you.
Come on, computer. Okay.
I've done a lot of candidate training, primarily in Virginia, and I wrote a book about it called The 6 Secrets to Winning Any Local Election. It's on Amazon. It's on my website, kenreid.org. If you want to have any kind of training on fundraising or anything like that, please give me a ring. I mean, the tactics and the skills that candidates use across state boundaries are very similar, except you do have, Steve Silverman said there is public financing in Montgomery County, which is very interesting. Okay, everybody, my name is Ken Reid. I am the chapter lead for the DMV for EJH, and I just lost our slides. Hey,
it's buffering. My computer is being a little slow, so just give it a second.
Okie doke. I'll just, very good. Excellent. Okay. I'm just going to be brief about this. There we go. I've been involved in civic action since living in Montgomery County in the late 90s. We moved to Leesburg in 2002, and I got involved there, and I ran for office. I was elected 4 times to the Leesburg Town Council and the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. Next slide, Adar. Thank you. And I am very pleased to be involved with this effort here. Makes me feel very good to be involved with fighting anti-Semitism. I feel like I'm doing a chesed, an act of kindness, and I think you all want to be engaged in the same way, especially given what's happened in the world the last couple of years. Next slide.
There we go.
Next slide. And I should let everybody know that I am a Republican. I'm not that engaged in Republican politics in Virginia anymore. I'm certainly not running again for anything. And we want all political affiliations, as Adar said, all levels of observance. And I will make sure that we don't get into divisive issues and start trying to win battles, win arguments online. We want to win battles. That's the most important thing. Kind of like what Paula just outlined, what she did in the public schools. So we want to be welcoming to everybody, any Jewish person who wants to be involved, even some non-Jews, if they want to be involved. We want the decision makers to feel our presence, because unfortunately, there are a number of Jewish organizations that don't galvanize people to do things. It's a shame, but they don't. And the operative word that I'm giving is be vocal, vigilant, and nonviolent, meaning persistent. And I believe, based on my study of Judaism and study of Jewish history, is we will always prevail. It's going to be a rough road. There are people get hurt, unfortunately, and we saw what happened in Bondi Beach. Next slide, if you can. We saw what happened in Israel, but we as a people, I believe, will prevail, because the other side is very irrational and very hot-headed, and their methods and their tactics and their mission is not honest. So I don't think I'm going to get into much of this. I think we have a lot of experienced people on this call today. And so I think I'm going to pass over this. I don't think I have to get into activism 101 with anybody here. But I will talk about some of the roles that we need for where we need volunteers. And right now we have a very large email list, I'd say about 250 people across the DMV, and I want to make it bigger. So one of the things that we really need are people are going to be the eyes and ears in their communities on anti-Semitism stuff. It doesn't matter where it is. I'll give you some examples of some things that we did not pursue as a group. But it's better to know things than to assume that someone else is going to handle it, because more than likely there is nobody who's going to handle it. So join that WhatsApp group. We have an excellent WhatsApp group, End Jew Hatred does. There's two groups, one for the DMV, and then there's one for action where you can't post. It's just for the organization to post things that are going on around the world. But getting involved locally is really where I want to stress that people should be involved, because we need folks to speak up at meetings. We need people to show support, folks to do research, especially if you have an area of expertise, writing as well, organizing volunteers, and texting activists, because I think we could have had a larger audience tonight if we were able to text. I don't have a broadcast texting account, but if we could send texts out to people, we would probably get some good feedback and also attendance for meetings. And of course, the benefits are, if you're new at this, is again, you're helping a good cause. You really are. You are being a good Jew by being involved in this way. There are social and networking possibilities, friendship, fellowship, and learning grassroots tools to take to other civic endeavors in your community. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Ideas are great, but action is what's needed. So I get a lot. This happens a lot in the civic and political world. People are, brainstorming. They want to give ideas. Let's do this. Let's have a press conference. Let's call the churches to get involved. Let's get allies. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's fine. But, the key thing is, who's going to have the time? I'm not getting paid for this. Paula's not getting paid. Adar has the whole country he has to deal with. So taking things on your own is going to be what's key. As long as but I feel like it's my role to focus people because of my background in politics and government and dealing with bureaucrats and professional staff, whatever, and on all levels, federal, state, and local. Anyway, next slide. Okay. Some recent wins, before the Arlington and Loudoun boards, we got them to stay out of the whole Israel issue. We were involved with getting people, including UMD alumni, to write the president of the University of Maryland, College Park, to rebuke the SGA president for holding a vote on BDS on Yom Kippur. We were not the only player there, so I'm not going to take credit for that. And we're currently seeing some progress with Fairfax County Public Schools in terms of getting a better oversight of the Muslim student associations, which have been involved with some, anti-Semitic activity, notably these videos that they made to promote their meetings by making fun of hostage taking. And they're now, the school system is now going to be implementing a broader anti-Semitism lesson plan in their middle school and high school social studies, but we don't know what that is yet. They call it culturally responsive social studies, and of course the Josie Caballero thing that I was quoted in Washington Jewish Week, and there was an excellent letter in response, and we put her on the spot for her pro BDS comments to the Democratic Socialists organization. Next slide. Okay. We also have we've been involved with the lady you see in that picture is a South African politician who came to the Westfield Marriott to speak before an anti-Israel group. We called out a lot. I think we got Lions for Zion and Pens to Swords involved with that, and we just blitzed Marriott with tons of emails, phone calls, protesting this person's president. We even brought it up to the State Department, because she was involved with getting Netanyahu indicted by the ICC. She's pro-Putin, and she's rabidly anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. This picture on the right, one of our people on our email list noted that on the Falls Road overpass in 270, these people are posting these signs, and that is illegal under Maryland DOT rules. The only thing, though, is that we have to find them in action and have the cops come over to see if they will tell them to take the signs down. The protest is okay. That's legal, but not the signs on the overpass. Next slide. And I think that's still going on. We haven't been able to really get that. Some things we did not get involved with. This is an area where, some people put these anti-Israel, pro-Palestine stickers on merchandise at the Target in Sterling. We did not really get too much involved with that. And somebody noticed that there was a computer geek guy who has these anti-Israel stickers on his car. Again, hate speech is protected speech, whether you like it or not. In the schools and in the colleges, it is not. And if there's a rule against it, then that's where we can have some action, like in the public schools in Fairfax County. They have a hate speech. But as we know, Jews sometimes get second-class citizenship when it comes to the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion mantra. We're not getting involved with condemning the Muslim attack. The JCRC and other groups are doing that. I'm not getting people to thank politicians unless we win at something, like keeping the Arlington board from voting. We did send some thank you notes. But if someone feels very strongly about taking action on something, please do so. I'd be happy to help you, but I think our focus is on things where we can actually make a difference, and areas that are not being affected by the JCRC. Next slide. I'm going to jump down to this number 3 here in Virginia. This is an area where the 4 JCRCs blew the whistle on Sam Razul, the chairman of the House Education Committee in the Virginia House of Delegates, for making outrageous anti-Semitic comments throughout his political career. They called for his resignation, but they never did anything to send emails to the speaker or the Democratic leadership. So we've been doing that. We have been pressing that as well, very hard. But in this area of fighting anti-Semitism, very different from some of the activism I've done in the past, no news is good news. Status quo, if Jews are not being harassed, if they're not being hurt, if we see this declining, it was increasing dramatically, I think, because of the Israel response to Hamas. That's a good thing. That's a victory in itself. We're not out for blood with officials who blow us off. We're out for results. On the top here, I want to bring this to your attention in DC. It's only DC matter that I have to bring to attention. I don't know if anybody on the call is from DC, but this group called the Palestine House of Freedom opened to, quote, create a high-profile presence for Palestine in Washington, D.C., but the Baltimore Zionist District is handling this. They are monitoring this closely, and so I'm not going to step on toes. I don't have a lot of D.C. people on my list, but I want to get more. I want to get more people from the DMV, on our email list and on our WhatsApp. Go to the next slide. So final tips and takeaways. We're never going to convince our opponents. They're hard, fast anti-Semites, whatever. It's easy to be in the echo chamber on Facebook and to sit at your computer, be a keyboard activist. But it is really worthwhile to get out there and be involved, to call elected officials, to call political candidates even, and to press your case. It does make a difference. It really does. And we want to minimize personality clashes. I don't know if you have followed the drama on MACA, Mothers Against College Anti-Semitism. Terrible schism that occurred with the founder and the board of directors. The last thing we need are for we to be savaging each other. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody can add value. just because somebody's not been involved in something for the longest time or doesn't have, people are smart people, we're well educated, and it's my goal to be inclusive and to get people involved and engaged, especially on the with local officials. Next slide. And that's it. So again, let's be vocal, vigilant, and nonviolent. We will prevail on Israel Chai.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ken. So for everybody who's here still, we'll be able to send out the PowerPoints that we've seen today to all of you following this Zoom. And reminder, this is recorded, so we will distribute it out. One thing I want to quickly address before we do a quick Q&A for the next 15-20 minutes is that I know I was talking a lot about parent activism and how important that is to run for school board. The End Jew Hatred movement has an initiative. It's called End Hate in Education. I'm actually going to share my screen one more time. I promise this will be super fast. So everybody, when you have a moment, search End Hate in Education, End Jew Hatred on Google. Click on the first link you see. It'll be this one right here. So what is End Hate in Education? End Hate in Education is our national campaign to counter extremism in public schools, private schools, you name it, throughout K-12. K-12 has been at the forefront of a lot of issues. Every single day we see something new arise, whether it's a playground being plastered with anti-Semitic graffiti and swastikas, or anti-Semitic curriculum, or Jew haters coming to speak to students. We have lots of different stories and testimonies worth sharing, and we also have a teen ambassador program as well, where we have high school students that are out and active, talking about the issues in their classrooms, working with their parents and within their respective schools to make it a better place. We have ambassadors in Pennsylvania. We have 2 in New York, 1 in New Jersey. We have 1 in Delaware in particular, 1 in Florida, and 1 in California, and 2 in Connecticut. So we've got a pretty good arsenal of really talented kids. They're writing op-eds, they're going above and beyond to meet the moment. So going back to End Hate in Education, one of the most important things that I want you all to take away from this, and this is something you can all do, whether it be, at your next PTA meeting, or you go to a school board meeting, whatever it may be, or even if you go to your local synagogue, we have a guidebook for the United States and Canada as well. These guidebooks basically are a step-by-step resource which gives people the legal language, the resources, laws to look into, things that you can counter when it comes to Jew hatred in your schools. What type of issues are actionable, what's considered kosher versus what merits free speech. It's basically the entire arsenal that you need in order to be an effective advocate for your schools. I'll quickly just showcase the PDF without showing everything, but like I said, these guidebooks are available online on our website. You can print them out and hand them out to as many people as you want. We welcome that. If you'd like to do that, I will put my email in the chat so you can all see it. But again, just Google End Hate in Education and Jew Hatred, and you will see it. But yeah, it talks about various things like FERPA in particular. That's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It is so essential of a law, you couldn't even believe it. It talks about the importance of state sunshine laws. Basically it talks about the need for transparency in your schools, ways you can do outreach to get your students' curriculum. Legally, you are allowed to have access to your student's curriculum or your child's curriculum. You have the legal right to know what is happening. So it talks about lesson plans, it talks about school board advocacy, how to set up meetings, how to basically look into an agenda item, learning how to research your minutes before each meeting. It gives you every single thing you need. Title VI, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It talks about the importance of understanding how these systems work, how parent-teachers associations and school board meetings work, from a skeletal perspective, knowing how it functions, knowing who the players are, who are the people that attend these meetings regularly, who can you assemble a coalition with, how you can basically befriend and do outreach to people that share your values when it comes to fighting anti-Semitic radicalization in your high school. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically present, several different chapters. It's an easy guidebook for you to read. And, I just wanted to make sure that it's there. I'll even share it, just to make it easier in the chat. But yeah, End Hate in Education is something that we've worked on with numerous organizations and numerous people around the block, basically. Liz, I see you're raising your hand. What's up?
Yeah, so that's fabulous. Great that you all did that. Two questions. One is, how are you, EJH, planning on distributing it? Number one, like through all the local chapters, through national chapter, et cetera, et cetera. That's my first question. Before you answer, and then the second question is, I saw the headline that said, like, a parent guide. Do you have one that would be appropriate, or do we give that one also to administrators at schools?
You could give it to administrators at schools.
Okay, so it's one version that's for parents. I just wanted to double check. It's not like there's a version for parents and a version for administrators. We could just give that version to parents.
Yeah, you could give it to
parents. I mean, to administrators also.
Yeah, the friendly administrators, I would suggest, that want to help and be a resource. It gives you language for outreach when it comes to reaching out for curriculums, knowing your students' syllabi, seeing what's going to be on an agenda item for a parent-teachers association meeting. It's all top-down stuff. And, we've had people like handing this out at synagogues, community events, rallies, anything that draws in parental engagement. Obviously, be sensitive to the environment you're in too. I mean, one of the things that I would also advise, out of, respect for other organizations, let's say you're going to like an IAC event. IAC is a partner organization of ours and we love them. We're attached to the hip. They're one of the many organizations that we love to partner with. But it's always important, like let's say you wanted to go to, I know the IAC summit is going on right now, but let's say you wanted to go there and you reach out to me and say, hey, Adar, I want to take, 50 to 100 copies of the EJH guidebook and hand it out at the summit. I would say, okay, let me first check in with the IAC folks just to make sure it's okay. Obviously it depends on the environment too. Obviously, like if you go to a rally or something, obviously you can hand them out for free or like most public events. But I always like to be, kept in the know-how beforehand. If you want to do it, just reach out to me. I'll give you my blessing. You could easily print them or we can have them printed for you. We welcome it. So it's the parent's ultimate weapon when it comes to navigating the law, knowing your legal rights, knowing your own civil rights, and knowing how you are protected and entitled to hear and to obtain and review what your kids are learning. As a matter of fact, last thing I'll say super fast before we just quickly, I know Ken, you asked, you're raising your hand. I'll just say one last thing, let you go after, and then we'll do a very fast Q&A. I'll cite the importance of this, like why these things are important. We want to put an emphasis on transparency, showing that we're the moral messengers here. We're the moral advocates. We're the healthy advocates. We're non-combative. We want to make your institution a better place for all. We're not here with pitchforks and torches, burn the system down. No, we don't function like anarchists. I refuse to incorporate anarchy into our activism. One thing I'll say, the importance of transparency and knowing what's going on the syllabi front It also applies to the college campus level. As a matter of fact, I had talks with the House Committee on Education and the Workforce a while back about one particular class that was teaching about the Palestinian Unity Intifada, is what it was called. And they were showcasing a lot of anti-Semitic documentaries and anti-Israel movies. And this was because a parent got access to the curriculum before the semester started. So we were able to get ahead of the curve and put that teacher on, or that professor on the Education and Workforce Committee's radar. It's important that these people are filled in. But that's why I'm saying transparency is key. That's why having these syllabi and knowing what's coming is essential. So it's important to have this guidebook. I'll put it out here. Ken, I'm sorry that you've been raising your hand for a hot minute. What's going on, my dude?
Wanted to get to some questions in the chat. That's all. If you want to get to them, you can.
Absolutely. Here.
I mean, I can just summarize. Somebody asked if it'd be helpful if there was some Jewish groups in Montgomery County to make endorsements beneficial to the Jewish community. Form a political action committee. There's probably a way to do that under Maryland election law. It's not hard to do in Virginia, I can tell you that. And you can even raise money to endorse candidates. Getting Jewish voters to the polls ahead of time is really what's key in this Montgomery County Council election. It's not just to show up at the polls and early voting and see who's there. It's to get people to the polls to vote for the candidates that you feel are going to support our position on the county council. What other question is in here? Somebody asked about the roots of anti-Semitism. I mean, there's been books and there's whole academic subjects on that. It is what it is, and we're there to fight it. That's basically the mission here. That's all. I just want to open up to other questions, other people. That's all, Adar.
Awesome. I've not encountered this level of anti-Semitism.
But people, folks, really call me anytime until 10 or 10:30 at night. I'm comfortably retired. I don't have a day job. You can call me anytime. We can talk about whatever ideas you have. I mean that.
Does anyone want to ask any questions? Anything centered on activism? Oh, here we go. We got a new. They've been growing significantly 30 years. They have permission to say it. Okay, that's not a question.
Adar, just to follow up on my other question to you. So are you all going to be distributing that K-12 thing?
Yeah, we've actively been distributing it to activists across the country. They've been,
but not I guess what I'm saying is I could have missed it, and apologies, I easily could have missed it, but is anything going to be published, just for example, or what you're saying, a summary of what you're saying, hey guys, we have this, you all should use it in EJH DMV sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we could obviously put it out there as a reminder. I know we've circulated it across all our chapters numerous times, and I know.
Oh, okay. I missed it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, there's a lot, as you know, there's always a lot of activity in many of those chats. So, always happy to resurface, if anyone wants to even showcase it to other Jews in your community, by all means, go to the website here. Let me actually quickly copy and paste it for everyone to see. Boom. There's the End Hate in Education initiative where you can read all about it, and you could also print out the guidebook. We can even get it in a brochure format. So, I'm also going to put my email.
What about distributing it or offering it at least to rabbis and asking them to do it? Is that something EJH would consider doing?
Absolutely. Rabbis, religious leaders, community.
But I'm not saying a one-off where I go door to door. I'm saying an organized effort, because each of us do it. It's completely inefficient. If EJH does a concerted effort, do you see what I'm saying? Then it's much more efficient.
No, I hear you. That's fine. We could do it. I'm just trying to think which synagogues in particular. I mean, Liz,
I can tell you right now, Adar, Chabad rabbis won't get involved in anything political. They just won't.
well, it's not necessarily political.
Yeah, it's not
It
political.
doesn't
That's what I
matter.
was thinking.
A lot of them are very, very reticent about it. I think it's a difficult thing to do.
Well, I will say I'm on top of the Chabad rabbis in Bethesda and at my two daughters' universities all the time with this stuff and publishing, asking them to sign EJH and their groups and their parents, to sign EJH stuff all the time. And same thing with Hillel chapters when they're open to it. I find Chabad people more open than some of the Hillels, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, we work with Hillels and Chabads. I mean, again, like every single one is different. So
Yeah.
also it depends on who they talk to as well. There's a lot of different factors, but I'm happy to have conversations with rabbis and Chabad members and keep them up to date. Church leaders in particular, that's another big one. Interfaith outreach is a high priority for us right now. So here, I put in my email, but it just seems like there's been a lot of. So Anna, I saw, how do I find the DMV EJH WhatsApp group? Just be on the lookout for my follow-up email, my thank you email. It's going to have a link to the PowerPoints that we saw today, and it'll also have a link to the EJH WhatsApp group for the DMV. Interfaith with whom, Adar? Basically, evangelicals, Hindus, Muslims even, that are pro-peace, pro-shared society, pro-Israel, pro-Jewish civil rights. We've got a collection of people that from all those different demographics. Ideally, our big concern right now is the rampant spread of Jew hatred in the evangelical base in particular. We're more than fortunate to have a powerhouse array of allies, like Christian, Catholic allies. But we see it as a big focus right now because you have people like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and, what's his name, like Matt Walsh, like all these different, Jew haters that are basically, fueling the narrative, adding fuel to the fire, basically pouring gasoline on a burning building, adding insult to our injury. JD Vance, there you go. That's the big one right there. JD Vance, unfortunately, has not been very, very, very good when it comes to addressing Jew hatred coming from the conservative sphere. And that's a very, very big issue for us. Not just that he's not doing it, but there's not enough pushback. I'm familiar. I think it's Buckley Carlson who works for him. Kufi is very, very, very good. We also work with Gen Zion. We have a few Christian fellows, like campus fellows as well, that are very, very active with us. We encourage people to identify specific churches that would be open to having the End Jew Hatred movement talk about Jewish civil rights, telling Jewish civil rights related history stories, talking about our shared values, having panel discussions. We even encourage students to go to things like Turning Point USA and basically press people on the spot. Why are you platforming this Jew hater? Or even if you're not even just doing that, you're also there to build alliances. Turning Point is just one example. There's a lot of different organizations and, conferences that you can tap into. We even encourage people to go to MLK events as well. Like this week, even though we were off yesterday, we had people that were going out. As a matter of fact, one of my closest friends went to one thing in Detroit. He's African American and Christian, and he sent me a very, very lengthy paragraph about how angry he was that he saw Rashida Tlaib there and that there were activists that were there talking about Palestine, despite Martin Luther King himself being a Zionist, and people walked out. So, he was one of the few people that walked out. When it comes Native American tribes or nations, there is one group in particular. I know Michelle, my coworker Michelle, has engaged them before, and I know they were present at an October 7 event that I went to at the National Mall on the 1-year anniversary. I know those two people have been great. I just can't remember their names right now, but Paula, I will find that out for you. I'll ask Michelle.
Okay, thanks.
But Native Americans are big. They are all in on indigenuity and understanding the importance of having ties to indigenous land, experiences with genocide, things like that. So, there's a lot of different demographics to tap into. And one thing that I would advise, I know that the climate is intense right now, but be careful when you do your outreach. And also, most importantly, I'm going to use a Ronald Reagan quote right here: trust but verify. When it comes to Muslim outreach, make sure that, it's people within Christian communities, evangelical communities, or even just native Muslims that are supportive of the Jewish community, and not by the ones that simply say, oh, anti-Semitism is bad and yucky, but free Palestine. No, you want to see where they come from. I have a very close friend who grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, as a matter of fact, is of Lebanese Christian descent. This man he worked on Capitol Hill, used to intern under me, not at EJH, but in another past job, and, worked on various congressional committees. And all he talks about with me is how much he wants to do more for our community. So it's very important that you assess your audience. Like, I know right now with everything going on in Iran, one great DC-based Muslim organization that you can tap into is NUFDI. That's called the National Union for Democracy in Iran. That is a fantastic Persian-led organization that does a lot of great work. There's also Hindu Action as well. They have a DC presence there. Utilize these resources, utilize your allies. We can't be alone in this fight. We can't be preaching to the choir to ourselves constantly. It has to be a collective effort. Otherwise, no one's going to have our backs. And Nigerian Christians, yes, we actually have chapters in Nigeria, we have South Africa, and we have one in, Kenya as well. We've been looking into South Africa in particular, and just the ICC and just everything they've been doing. Let's see, team plan for EJH. There's just so much time in the day, limited volunteers. There's a space for everybody. There's things that they can do at their own capacity. We always like to see consistency in activism. Can you show it every single day? Paula, you show it every single day. Steve, I don't know if he's still on this call, but he does it every single day. And it's important that you continue doing more than talking the talk. I've been walking the walk since 2018 on a more professional level, realistically since youth. But it's important that we all play a collective part. Everything you take away today, I want you all to showcase to your respective communities. Hey, I have a resource guide for parents. Is your kid going to, or do you have a kid who's going to public school right now? Is my mother, or is my sister or brother-in-law, or do I have a nephew, niece in college or in high school or elementary school right now? This is a gift. It is one of the most important pamphlets that you can utilize, and we have been utilizing. It's contributed to a lot of our successes. So seize the moment. Take advantage of it. It's the most important thing. Do we have any more questions?
I'll just add, somebody earlier on in the comments said, do we have a letter or something or talking points for the supporting the Maryland Israel Development Center? So I'm happy to work with you and put something together that's a letter that people can send out to the county council, the county executive. And I would also say it's probably at the State House too. So I don't know, Adar, if you guys have one of those kind of online forms where you can automatically your name, autofill with the message that goes to people or not.
Oh, you mean the click to send?
Yeah. Do you guys do that?
Yeah, we do that, but it's with email campaigns. So if you want an email campaign on something, definitely reach out to me. We can cook something and distribute it widely. Feel free to.
Paula,
Okay.
that would be great. That would be fabulous. That's the sort of thing that, again, there's a reason that those email campaigns in the action items, WhatsApp work that End Jew Hatred National does. And because it's easy for people to take action, and the vast majority of people that have about 5 or 10 minutes and the brain space to click a button. So that's what we need to do. That would be a great idea. And I think also in that same vein, whatever we can get that are very bulleted specific actions that we can post on the DMV EJH site, then the rest of us can make sure that we get those out to our groups also.
Well, let me just interject. Is there actually a budget? When does the county council work on their budget? Spring?
Well, I think Elrich just unveiled his budget, and I think it's in there. But there's a big push.
So if it's in there, then the most important thing would be to show up at the budget hearing and tell the council, we want you to keep that money, especially if there's going to be people coming in from other groups telling them to get rid of it.
Yes, that is really important too. I agree.
Yeah,
Once the
see,
budget goes,
there's really no controversy. Basically, getting people interested is based on what goes on if there's a controversy. Like what happened with Josie Caballero or the Muslim Student Association's videos, which was exposed by the group Camera, actually. And that gets people that can get people motivated, galvanized. Like the University of Maryland thing that was in the Jewish Telegraphic Agency. It was an article, so that got people interested. So if there's no controversy right now, it's some of those things you want to maybe put on the back.
I'd say there is a controversy right now, and I'm hearing from council members that they're being hammered and pressured. So the controversy is being
over $43,000, right?
Well, it's not the $43,000. It's a point on their BDS mission.
Exactly.
If you can get rid of that, then you're encouraging more BDS, because that's a form of BDS, isn't it? So I would say there is a controversy, and I know the council is hearing from the anti-Israel, pro-BDS people right now. Yeah. So I would say if we can do this auto letter thing now, that would be good. And we'll just keep up the pressure. And as you say, it's so important to show up at the hearings when the budget, is being discussed.
Hence the swords can do something, but I would write the letter for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get letters all over the country. That's the problem. But what you can do is you can have what I did in Fairfax County was I drafted a letter, I put it in the petition, and then I said to people, sign the letter. And so therefore I selected only the Fairfax County residents who I submitted to the superintendents and people like that. So that's one way of doing it. And then you can just add the people who you want to a letter as opposed to a petition or individual emails. I can explain that to you offline.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's an idea too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any last questions, everybody? Going once? Going twice? Wahad.
I wanted to my name is Deborah Block. I
mention where you live, Deborah.
Huh?
Where do you live, Deborah? Mention where you live, okay?
Oh, I'm in Alexandria, Virginia.
Good.
So I've been a pro-Israel, pro-Jewish activist for about 15 years. And I report about anti-Semitism to allies, journalists, activists, politicians, and sort of predicting trends of the threat to Western civilization, and Jews being on the forefront, because what starts with the Jews doesn't end with the Jews. So my husband and I started a charity because we're in the real estate business, among other entrepreneurial pursuits. And we started a charity to help keep our community safe. And one of the big events that we're very proud of is that Chabad actually invited us to, our charity sponsored Krav Maga self-defense workshops at their National Jewish Retreat, which is the largest Chabad event in the country. So that was a wonderful positive development, since I know you guys were discussing that earlier. And also, you mentioned, getting involved in politics and things like that. Maybe if you had some type of very clean description of, what's involved with the positions, the description of the jobs, the time commitment, compensation, how long it takes to get elected and the process, along with maybe Ken's book tossed in there for good measure. And support for doing that, because I'm sure, a lot of us are working professionals and don't have the time to get involved, full time in certain things. Others of us are retired, maybe have time to volunteer more time, and others are in between where we can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So maybe getting a survey or getting feedback from all of us to find out where our strengths lie and where our time commitment and availability is, getting a pulse on that, and what we could offer up in terms of being an asset and being a value to your organization. Specifically, I mean, I know for myself, I could host events and do fundraisers. And I could, organize any type of empowerment, education, and self-defense workshops, and I can spread the word about any of your events, any of your resources, to movers and shakers in the community. I can help you, with, if you mentioned thank you notes, I can do a much more, not just, an automated email that goes out, but like an actual, like in-person thank you note, fundraising
offline,
campaign.
Deborah, okay? Let's talk offline. Let's talk offline about it.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
like these, if we could just tap into all of our strengths and see how we can help you, specifically.
Exactly yeah, definitely. Good.
Perfect. Anyways,
right.
well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It's a lot to unpack. Be on the lookout within the next 24 hours, less than 24 hours, pretty much whenever my computer decides to finish letting me download this video. I'll have this entire webinar sent out your way, as well as the PowerPoints from Paula and Ken, as well as everyone's contact information and hate and education, as well as the links to the link to the End You Hatred DMV WhatsApp chat. So, please reach out to us for anything you need. My email's in the chat, Ken's email's in the chat, but if you miss it, you will see it tomorrow, but maybe even before tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But thank you all so very much for joining us tonight. Please keep yourselves active. Let's walk the walk. Don't talk, just talk to the talk. It's late, stuttering already. You're all more than exceptional, and our success is core, to everyone's mobility and activism. And there's so much we can do collectively, uniformly, in unity, everywhere. So let's keep up the good fight. God bless you all. Have yourself a phenomenal night. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All righty. I'm Israel Chai, everybody.
I'm Israel Chai.
I'm Yisrael Chai. Shalom.